to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla vs. Mothra on TNT.
And so the one-eyed scientist, Dr. Sarazawa, who we never liked anyway, gives his life so that all the life in the ocean can be killed. Isn't that what happens? He takes the oxygen destroyer down there, which looks suspiciously like a construction worker's thermos bottle, and he sacrifices himself as a metaphor for what America should do with the atomic bomb, make it impossible to use ever again. But of course, the critics didn't talk about that part of the story. Anyway, this was the movie that not only launched Godzilla's career, but it launched many other sci-fi monsters at Japan's famous Toho Studios, and we'll see another one in just a minute when we screen one of my favorites, Godzilla vs. Mothra. Same director, same producer, same everybody. I want to remind you first, though, that next week is Oversexed Cave Women in Loincloths Night, beginning with Victoria Vitri in the ever-popular When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, and continuing with the evil Queen Martine Beswick in Prehistoric Women, two cave girl classics from the 60s. Love those movies. Okay, this next Godzilla flick, in case you're a little fuzzy on your Godzilla history, is the one with the giant egg and the teensy-weensy identical twin fairy women who bring the aged Mothra from their bombed-out nuclear test site island to fight Godzilla and save thousands of fleeing, shrieking Japanese extras. Non-stop action in this baby, starring Akira Takarada as the young reporter, and the Toho Studios Special Effects Department is all of the monsters. We'll be talking about it as we go through the rest of the evening here, but for right now, I'll just give you those drive-in totals. We have 11 dead bodies, 1 typhoon with tidal wave, 1 giant monster egg, singing midget fairy girls, 1 giant flying moth, 1 nuclear mutated giant prehistoric lizard monster, fleeing hordes, massive monster stomping, including destruction of radio towers, pagodas, factories, and office buildings, 2 missile attacks, 1 fist fight, fire spitting, scorched earth army attack, monster electrocution, village burning, giant caterpillar attack, gratuitous tribal dancing. Of course, you always have gratuitous tribal dancing. 4 stars. Check it out, and I'll see you in a few. You know what always happens on Godzilla night, though? We always have parents that let their 7-year-olds stay up and watch it. And then I say something off color, as my mother used to say, you know, he's talking off color, and then that TNT switchboard lights up like RoboCop going through a metal detector, you know? So we got to remember, children watching, okay? Can't talk about sex. But you can talk about boogers. They love that.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla vs. Mothra on TNT.
This is one of my favorite Godzilla movies because of those teeny tiny girls. You know, hardcore Godzilla fans sometimes don't like this one because they think it's too goofy. There's too much comedy in it. Like Yoka, the dimwit photographer girlfriend of the hero reporter, and the errand boy at the newspaper who does everything wrong. Anyway, did you know that Godzilla has starred in 22 movies? Wow. Aren't you impressed? Yeah. You should go, ooh, when you're impressed. Godzilla has starred in 22 movies. Ooh. I thought I would sit here and toss off some nerd Godzilla facts, okay? So help me out. The first Godzilla flick that we watched earlier cost $900,000, making it the most expensive Japanese movie ever made. Want to hear how Godzilla got his name? Yeah. In Japanese, Godzilla is called Gojira, which is a combination of the word for gorilla and the word for whale. And when they made the first movie, there was this tough guy working in the publicity department at Toho Studios, and his nickname was Gojira. And that's how they got the name for the monster. Godzilla vs. Mothra is the 4th Godzilla film. It came out in 1964, and in some places was known as Godzilla vs. the Thing. You know why the last 6 Godzilla films haven't been released in America? Because Toho Studios got $10 million from Sony for the rights to make the first American Godzilla film, which came out on Wednesday. Written and directed by the same team that did Independence Day. Did you know that in the most recent Godzilla flick that made in Japan, which can't be released in America because of Sony, a flick called Godzilla vs. Destroyer, Godzilla actually dies? Oh. But little Godzilla does not die. Okay, enough. Good. Back to Godzilla versus Mothra. You know what's funny to me, though? Godzilla was created by the Japanese as a symbol of what Americans did to him, right? We dropped the nuclear bomb on them, and it created all these mutations, and one of the mutations was Godzilla. So they make these movies where Godzilla is the symbol of American nuclear evil, and then the movies become popular in America, and then 40 years later somebody says, hey, we should make an American Godzilla movie where the monster eats American cities. And so the symbol of anti-American sentiment is sent over to America to devour itself, and the company doing the American film is Sony. They nuked us right back, didn't they? Were you following that?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla vs. Mothra on TNT.
Okay, the big green guy is back in Godzilla vs. Mothra, better known when it came out as Godzilla vs. the Thing. See, in these early Godzilla pictures, they had to always come up with some way to bring Godzilla back to life because they killed him off in the last picture. And, of course, it always involves some radioactive substance that awakens him from his slumbers deep in the earth or at the bottom of a lake or something. And this is the last of the Godzillas that had the original creative team on it. Writer Shinichi Seikazawa, special effects guy Eiji Tsuburaya, and director Inashiro Honda. And they made 4 of them. The other 3 were Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla Raids Again, and King Kong versus Godzilla. And then they went on to do other things, except for the director, Inashiro Honda. He directed darn near everything that came out of Toho Studios. He created Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, Ghidra, just about every monster we're going to see tonight. But you'll notice that in all the Godzilla films after this one, Godzilla is not nearly as mean. He develops more personality. He's not just this indestructible killing machine. And the reason is that Toho decided they should change Godzilla's personality because little kids loved him so much. But it didn't work. The movies made less and less money, and the whole cycle kind of petered out in the 70s. So they came back in the mid-80s and acted like all those previous movies didn't exist, and they went back to the mean killing machine Godzilla for the last 6 movies that they've made. The one they made called Godzilla 85, that was the last one released in American theaters, and that was supposed to be a sequel to the original 1954 Godzilla, so they just started over. Okay? Enough Godzilla trivia. Let's watch that lovable atomic dinosaur do the Tokyo Stomp. How about it? Remember in Godzilla 85, they have Godzilla eat a Russian nuclear submarine? And then to make him even meaner, he eats a whole nuclear plant, and he starts glowing green, and he gets bigger and bigger until he's almost as big as his co-star, Raymond Burr.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla vs. Mothra on TNT.
You know that noise Godzilla makes? Yeah, that noise. I always thought that was an elephant. But I read this interview with the official Godzilla soundtrack composer, Akira Ifukube, and he said that it's actually a glove that they rubbed over the string on a contrabass. Anyway, you'll notice that we don't see much of Mothra in this flick, even though it's called Godzilla versus Mothra, and that's because this script wasn't written for Godzilla. It was originally a script called Mothra versus Bagan, but they didn't think Mothra alone or Bagan alone or Mothra and Bagan together could carry the movie. They needed a star. So you're probably thinking, well, who's Bagan anyway? Well, they fired Bagan. They fired the new monster that gave his part to Godzilla. You know how many Bagan movies were made? None. Bagan was so crushed by being replaced at the last minute that he never became a star at Toho Studios. He developed a drinking problem, started peeling the rubber scales off his body, ended up doing auto parts commercials in Fiji. Anyway, Mothra was happy to work with Godzilla because Mothra, being one of the few female monsters, just couldn't draw the big crowds. Too sweet and feminine. You saw her in, you saw her in her one scene. She was over the hill, even in this movie. But put her with Godzilla, and the old gal could still work. Yep. So that's what they did. Roll it. See, everybody thinks I'm joking when I talk about the monsters this way, but that's just how they had discussions at Toho Studios. The monsters were the stars of the movie. All the human actors were just furniture. All right. Is this the part where we see the authentic Japanese tribesmen in leather underwear? Okay, good. Good for the gay audience. Go.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla versus Mothra on TNT.
Okay, Mothra is good to go as long as those 6-inch midget girls sing to him for motivation. And while he's revving up a plan to go back to the mainland and fight Godzilla, this might be a time to read a little convict mail in the segment we like to call Joe Bob's Jailbreak. And to help me out, here is the lovely and talented TNT mail girl, Rusty, just brimming with vim and vitality and vigor, you vixen, you.
That was cute.
Thank you. What horrible house of horrors are we visiting this week?
Prisons aren't all that bad.
Oh, let's see. The food is free, although I'll bet that doesn't last forever because the last 5 years they've started charging prisoners for everything they use in the prison.
Well, then it's good that they have Monstervision.
Well, they have to pay for that, too, because they have to pay for their TV set. They have to pay for cable.
And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well, it's a little difficult when you make $2 a day.
That's what I make.
Oh.
Very funny.
At least you could provide free cable.
Why? I don't have free cable. Come to think of it, why don't we have free cable?
Yeah.
We work on cable, we should have free cable.
Yeah.
Because you're in TNT prison?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. That's true. What do we got here?
It comes from Big Muddy Correctional Center in Ina, Illinois.
Big Muddy. All right, must be on the Mississippi.
Yeah.
Underwater cages. Men in underwater cages at Big Muddy. Joe Bob Briggs. Every week I am glued to TNT to watch Monstervision. I enjoy watching the horror flicks of my youth. And to top all that, you crack me up. You are the best host of any show I've seen in a long time. Keep it up. Me and some of the guys here got a bet that the mail girl is your old lady. I bet she isn't. They say she is, so which is it? I can see why you were always asking her out. She's hot. I would like to ask you if you could play The Exorcist and The Prince of Darkness, two of my favorite films. Thanks, Mick Kimbrough, number B80173, Big Muddy Correctional Center. Well, hon, you think we should tell them the real truth? Because I think we've kept our love a secret for too long.
Nobody's gonna believe that.
Why not?
Don't make me spell it out.
Mick, I'll tell you. We're dating. It's only dating. We're trying to see whether it's right for us.
Don't do that.
Why?
Because people believe things they see on TV.
I can no longer live a lie.
Please.
The Big Muddy Correctional Center is located way downstate. It's 10 miles south of Mount Vernon, Illinois. It's in the little town of Ina. Ina has 489 people, but the prison has 1,758 inmates. So what do you say, guys? I say we can take them, right? Then they've got an additional 183 guys in the adult boot camp program, which is something that's not very nice to attend in the middle of the southern Illinois wilderness. You know how I know this place is rough? You can trade 4 years of your sentence for 4 months in boot camp. Whoa! What does that tell you about that place? And this is one of those prisons where you have to buy your own TV, you have to pay for your own cable, so we especially appreciate those Monstervision regulars there.
All right.
Big Muddy. And it's not on the Mississippi, it's on that lake south of Mount Vernon. What is the name? Rend Lake.
Yes.
I always want to say Reno Lake, but it's Rend Lake. And Mick, I'll try to get the fine John Carpenter film Prince of Darkness for you, but I don't think we'll be showing The Exorcist anytime soon, May, because we have played that thing to death over the last 2 years. But remember, free your mind and your butt will follow. We love a captive audience. And, honey, would you like me to stop on the way home, pick up some groceries?
Yes. You can leave them on my front porch.
Oh, okay. While I park the car in our big old double garage. Yeah. Back to the movie.
What does he mean by old lady, anyway?
Old lady? He means you're my chick. Hey. My babe. My squeeze.
How charming.
Hey, Joe Bob Briggs here with the #1 rule for a TNT Monstervision movie. Anybody can die at any moment.
Watch When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth. 1 week from tonight at 11 on TNT's Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla vs. Mothra on TNT.
So Godzilla kills the cutesy pie elderly insect creature with the really cheesy eyes. Moth-eaten Mothra now in mothballs. It's so sad. This was only Mothra's second movie. The first movie was called Mothra in 1961, the same movie that introduced the twin sister singing princesses that they carry around in a mahjong case. And while we're talking about all these various Toho monsters, I wanted to mention that Inashiro Honda, the director, made 2 movies that are among the most requested flicks we have around here. One is Destroy All Monsters, and the other is called Attack of the Mushroom People. But Inashiro made a total of 20 films. The last one he made was Monsters from the Unknown Planet in 1975, and he's considered today one of the all-time greats of monster directors. Inashiro, he died in 1993. And then last year, the producer of all the Godzilla and Mothra films died, Tomoyuki Tanaka. They were the last of the original Godzilla creators, and we salute them wherever they are. Yeah. We don't really know where they are because, you know, Shinto stuff, you know. A Baptist would say they're in H-E-double-L. A New Ager would say they're still here. You know, I say they're dead. Okay, bring in the Japanese army now. Or the American army, mate. You can never tell in these movies what army it is. I think technically Japan didn't have an army in these years because that was part of the deal they made at the end of World War II. So I think that's why you see all these American generals hanging out with the Japanese soldiers, so that it's obvious that the only reason they can't kill Godzilla with those missiles and bombs is that Americans are in charge. Go.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla vs. Mothra on TNT.
That part always cracks me up. What now, General? Execute Plan B. Plan B didn't kill him, sir. Execute Plan C. And it still looks like he's out there just swatting flies. They really did make Godzilla all but unkillable in these early flicks. You have to think up something sneaky to kill him, because tanks aren't going to do the job. We know that. After you've watched a few of these, you go, oh, yeah, ho-hum, here's the part where the tanks shoot. You know? Like somebody's going to get off a lucky shot, and Godzilla's going to clutch his heart and keel over dead. But let's remember the facts here. He's 400 feet tall. He's radioactive. He's amphibious. He was trapped under the ice of Antarctica for millions of years, and they're messing with him. All right, now, the very cool conclusion to Godzilla vs. Mothra. I love this ending. Some people think this is real cheesy, but I love it. Go. Yeah, supposedly Godzilla's a cross between a Stegosaurus and a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But since I don't remember what either one of those things is supposed to look like, I have no idea. It's just a big old green lizardy-looking cockeyed dragon head mother. Does that about sum it up?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Godzilla vs. Mothra on TNT.
Those giant swimming caterpillars. I love that part. It's a little much when you can see the nozzle hole in their mouths as they're spraying that white goo all over Godzilla. I mean, it looks like somebody took a garden hose nozzle and painted a face on it. But it's still a great ending. And that was Godzilla's final death scene for 20 years. In Godzilla 1985, he died again. But in all the movies in between, we had the goofy Godzilla, the happy Godzilla, the Godzilla that's kind of used as a hero to kill the other monsters and help mankind. So, see, Godzilla got so famous he wouldn't take those villain roles anymore, kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, next week is our Bimbo Cave Girl special on Monstervision with not one, but two classics about prehistoric singles life. First, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, starring the luscious Victoria Vitri, and then Prehistoric Women, starring sultry Martine Beswick. You will enjoy it. And that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, and another night of Monstervision, reminding you of Joe Bob's first law: never accept a drink from a urologist. Did you hear the one about the devout Jew? He was a tailor in New York who tries very hard to bring up his children in the faith. And one day his youngest son comes to him and announces he's becoming a Roman Catholic. And the tailor can't believe it's happening. He seeks out his rabbi to confide in him. He says, "Rabbi, I don't understand. I have a son, a nice Jewish boy, brought up in the faith. We observed, we attended, we did everything for the boy, yet he decides to become a Catholic. How can this thing be?" The rabbi says, "My friend, you wouldn't believe, but I must tell you, I too have a son, a nice Jewish boy brought up here in the synagogue, instructed in the faith, and yet he also became a Catholic. Who is to know? The Almighty has his reasons. All we can do is pray to him for answers." So with that, the two of them kneel down in devout prayer. Suddenly the lights dim, the walls shake, and God's voice fills the room. And God says, "Let me tell you two, you wouldn't believe, I had a son, a nice Jewish boy." Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. It was a little too theological for you guys, right? All right, three guys are in a communist prison in China. First guy says to the second guy, "So what are you in here for?" The guy says, "Me, I've been here 10 years. I supported Deng Xiaoping." The first guy says, "Well, that's ironic. I've been here 5 years, and I opposed Deng Xiaoping." A little later, the first man starts wondering about the third man in the cell, and he says, "Hey, you, what brings you here?" And the third man says, "I'm Deng Xiaoping." God. Theology, politics, forget it with you people.